Shalom, shalom, shalom. Perhaps as we continue reading Bereshit, Genesis, in chapter 2, one of the things that we now are introduced to is the very same words that we read every Shabbat as we say the blessings of Shabbat in chapter 2 of Bereshit. וכולו השמיים והארץ וכל זרם וכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלכותו אשר עשה בשבת ביום השביעי ולכל מלכותו אשר עשה ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי וקודש אותו כי בו שבת ולכל מלכותו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. And thus the heavens and the earth were finished in all their ways. By the seventh day God completed his work which he had done, and he abstained on the seventh day from all of his work which he had done. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on it he abstained from all of his work which God created to make. Now, here we have the introduction of the very basis of Shabbat, which usually is translated as rest. When it says vakulo, we finish, homiletically the Midrash relates to the word of longing, and kulo as utensils. Heaven and earth and God himself longed for the coming of the Sabbath, which would infuse the world with holiness, according to the Surah Hamor. The universe was created to serve as a tool for the service of God, a task that was completed with the advent of the Sabbath. Vakulo v'yeshabot, and completed, he abstained. These two words have different connotations. The first indicates that God's work of creation was finished, as indeed it was. Nothing new was created after the first 6 days. And the word abstain here, however, suggests that the work was interrupted or adjourned, but not ended. It tells human beings that there is always more to do, but that man must abstain from his creative work when Shabbat arrives. This from the words of the Vilna Gaon. Blessed and sanctified. This is two aspects in which, when we separate all of the days of the week and make Shabbat holy, it receives a divine blessing. Blessed and sanctified. God blessed the Sabbath day with abundant goodness, for on it there is a renewal of physical procreative strength and greater capacity to reason and exercise the intellect. You might say it is an opportune time to put your mind at rest. He sanctified it that no work was done on it, says Ibn Ezra. So God secured and blessed the Sabbath in the future by giving a double portion of manna or bread on Friday. In its honor, he would sanctify the bread, he would sanctify the manna by not providing manna on Shabbat itself. So there was no need to look for bread when bread was provided on Friday, a double portion, and thus being able to be at ease or at comfort knowing that God will supply our day of rest. The plain meaning of the verse is that Shabbat is sanctified above the normal course of physical activity. In this world, ordinary people must work to earn their livelihood, but on Shabbat, when work is forbidden, even so the Sabbath is the day that is blessed with more food and enjoyment than the rest of the week. This is the idea of le'asot, to make. The word implies that there was going to be ongoing process of creation, but everything in its inception was already created. The living creatures of the universe were given the ability to reproduce themselves, each according to its species. This is why when I make mention in chapter 1 that it says that let us make man in our image, not only did that refer to the divine throne room, as it were, the angelic beings, the ministering angels, but also referred to man himself, who was going to continue this aspect of the procreative work that God initiated from the very beginning. And thus, let us make includes not only those beings that he pre-existed, but those beings that were to be in existence and their endeavor to let us make man. This is an incredible mitzvah. Take a look at it and see how God, in his perfect design, allowed man to be a co-participator, collaborator to his creative works. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero. Have a wonderful week. Shabbat Shalom for those of you. And we continue on in the lecture and in the series of Genesis or Bereshit. Shalom.